story this week. The power sector continues to be in disarray. The coal segment is still mired in controversy, gas is still in short supply, and the result of that is an ever-widening power deficit in the Indian economy. So at a time like this, the focus is, or at least should be, on alternative energy sources. So are solar energy and wind energy in a position to provide any sort of viable option to conventional energy sources? Well, among the two, solar energy has certainly been seeing some rapid growth, while wind energy has hit a wind pocket because of policy concerns. But as Nikhil Inamdar reports, if either of these two sectors are to grow to any meaningful size, then government policy support is absolutely essential.
Power projects running out of gas, inadequate supplies of coal, and the resultant power blackouts. That, in a nutshell, has been the story of India's power sector in the last 1 year. But amid all these difficulties, if there was one area where the wind has been blowing in the right direction and the sun shining nice and bright, it's the renewable energy sector. And the spark in the solar energy space has been the brightest. The sector saw a capacity addition of 904 megawatt in FY12 compared to a total capacity of just 38 megawatt at the end of FY11. With increased competition came better pricing, and the cost of each megawatt of solar power dropped from as high as 16 to 17 crore rupees to 7 to 8 crore rupees, giving way to expectations that cost of solar power would be on par with thermal power in the next 4 or 5 years.
Other than India, no other country has ever come out with a price discovery mechanism. It has really shown what is the cost reduction which is possible in the country by promoting large-scale solar power plants.
Unlike conventional energy, where government policy has only hampered progress, in the case of solar energy, a large part of the success can be credited to government support through subsidies and tax incentives. The government's flagship solar power scheme has been the Jawaharlal Nehru Solar Mission, set up in 2010. Under the mission, over 1,000 megawatt of solar photovoltaic and thermal projects have already been awarded and are under implementation after a two-stage competitive bidding process. As incentive, power developers get an assured offtake for their power taken up by NTPC's trading subsidiary for 25 years and is bundled with thermal power and sold to discoms, in essence cross-subsidizing the high cost of solar with low cost of thermal power. Developers also get 30% subsidy or subsidized loans at 5% interest as additional incentive. Helped by these incentives and by the power of the sun, the solar energy space has been shining nice and bright for the past 2 years, with plans to add over 20,000 megawatt by 2022 through the Jawaharlal Nehru Solar Mission. But certain policy uncertainties have meant that developers are now turning cautious. One uncertainty plaguing developers is whether subsequent phases of the solar mission would continue the bundling mechanism as a way to cross-subsidize thermal power generation. But what's proving to be a bigger concern is the weak enforcement of renewable purchase obligations that compel SEBs and captive plants to buy a certain percentage of their power from renewable sources. The regulator blames this on the weak financial health of power distribution companies, which prevents them from meeting the requirements.
The difficulties arise because of the poor financial health of these bodies. And that's why, as the tariff revisions are taking place recently, you'll find that most of the state regulatory commissions have come out with tariff orders. As the financial position improves, then this obligation fulfillment becomes easier for distribution companies.
Financing solar projects is also proving to be another hurdle. While over 55 developers in the first phase of the solar mission have managed to close their projects financially, banks are imposing strict collateral requirements as they remain circumspect about the long-term prospects of this sector.
There is far more comfort, but still the overall comfort of getting into a project financing kind of a situation, which is pretty much day in day out happening on the wind side, has still not evolved in solar. So we hope that in the phase 2 we see people coming up, we see banks coming up and being comfortable on project financing.
Despite some concerns, the solar energy sector continues to buzz, unlike other segments of the renewable energy space like wind energy, which after making some progress in the last 1 year is facing rough weather yet again. In FY12, the wind sector added a capacity of 3,200 megawatt compared to just 2,300 megawatt in FY11. What's more, pricing per unit of wind power is now comparable to thermal power, but a sudden discontinuation of two key tax benefits that had been given to wind power producers has meant that the sector has started to slow down. One key change was the partial discontinuation of accelerated depreciation benefits that had been given to the sector in the past. At the same time, generation-based incentives which gave wind farms a benefit of 50 paise per unit of electricity generated were also withdrawn in March 2012, hitting the sector hard. These changes have meant that barely 300 megawatt of wind capacity has been added up to June this year, and a recent estimate put out by ICRA suggests that it would result in a decline in capacity addition by 800 to 1,000 megawatt in the near term.
A large part of the Indian market was driven by accelerated depreciation investors. So they have actually, they're no longer there in the marketplace, and so that perhaps has knocked off maybe a third to 40% of the total market appetite from a customer standpoint. The generation-based incentive, which was meant to compensate IPPs like us, that is still not been formally announced yet, although there are all indications that it would. But clearly the non-announcement of something as fundamental as that has set back the market by a bit.
The slowdown in the wind energy market and the emerging problems in the solar power sector have raised fresh questions about the sustainability of renewable energy in the absence of government incentives. But given the precarious power scenario in the country and the raging controversy over coal allocation, maybe the government will need to support the sector just for a little while longer if it wants to make any significant dent in its power deficit. Because in the absence of any clear solutions to coal or gas shortages, there doesn't seem to be any alternative to alternative energy. In Mumbai, Nikhil Anandar, NDTV Profit.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for Retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.